Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of First Date Unsolved. The case we will be discussing today is going to end up being at least a two-parter. I am not quite sure. I hopefully am not looking at three parts because I think that's a bit much, but this is a wild one. And part two, which I am writing up right now, is looking even longer than this part one. Part one isn't incredibly long. It's I guess roundabout like typical length of the episode so far, but episode two is getting kind of lengthy. So I don't know. We'll see. But this is definitely going to be a two-parter. And I found this story during my normal fishing process. And I was really, really taken aback when I saw so many news articles covering the very suspicious death of Mr. Adolf Czojor. The process I call it fishing. It's also like cold calling is how I explain it to people most of the time. I think I've talked about it here before, so I won't revisit that. But um, I had the list of cold cases pulled up. There is a website. I don't know if I've ever included that or not. I can include it in this website or this episode, I should say. There is a list of 320 cold cases online, um, through Delaware Online, and I believe they are listed in order of the date, like the date of the death of the individual. I just scroll through, pick a name out, do a little research here and there, see what I can find. If I really can't get any info at all, like nothing at all, then I move on. The thing that caught my attention the most about this case was the individual's first name. I saw Adolf and I was like, "Whoa, what's that about?" So, here we go. I came across this case. Again, this is going to be part one. I don't anticipate either episode being in like extremely long. Not quite sure, but I do love a cliffhanger, and I do love the thought of you guys listening and being like, "What? No, wait, we got to wait till next week." So I'm sorry about that. But before we dive into this week's case, I have some business that I want to discuss with you all first. My original goal for, I guess you could call it season one of the podcast when I first started it, was to hit at least a 10 episode mark. I am finding it increasingly difficult to set up interviews, and I'm getting less and less responses to my requests right now. I've already explained that I heavily rely on Facebook and Facebook Messenger at the moment, and it's I'm striking out. I will for sure give you 10 episodes. This episode here will be 7, part 2 will be 8. I also have a what I'm calling a homage episode scheduled for the 10th episode in season 1. So I'm just trying to figure out what to do with that ninth episode. Hopefully something comes along. So don't worry about that. You'll definitely get 10 episodes for sure. And I think what I'm going to do is take the summer to promote, and hopefully come back either later this year or early next year with content and, enough for season 2. If you have any cases you would like me to cover, let me know. I have heard feedback, the Nefertiti Trader case, which, hopefully I will be able to dive into that at some point. If there's anything else you all would like to hear, let me know. I did ask about the only known serial killer in Delaware. A majority of you said, yeah, you'd like to hear about that. Some people said no. So I'm going to see what I can find out about the victims in that situation, in that case. I don't, again, I don't really like to give criminals too much attention here. And that man he was foul. He was nasty. So I'm going to see what I can do as far as the victims go. Maybe that'll be in episode 9. Not quite sure. Maybe that could lead into a multi-parter for season 2. We'll see. But, if there's anyone you all know who have unfortunately, been victims of something like this, and they'd be willing to talk to me or even be quoted, it could be done via email, text message, whatever. If you have anyone who would be interested in communicating with me, let them know. I can be contacted on Instagram, Facebook, and the podcast even has an email firstdateunsolved@gmail.com. Let them know. I'm going to continue to do my little fishing thing here. Just, it's a process. It's okay. I have one more announcement, sorry. An exciting announcement. I have a giveaway in the works for you guys. First Date Unsolved, and you're going to have to excuse my accent, but El Cafecito Bistro, I'm very gringo, I'm sorry, are partnering up and will be giving away a dozen Blue Velvet Cookie Monster cookies. Listen, a dozen Blue Velvet Cookie Monster cookies. We all know red velvet. You have not experienced blue velvet. Okay. Everything that Cafecito Bistro puts out is insanely delicious. And they have agreed to hook up one winner with these one of a kind cookies. These cookies look like Cookie Monster made him himself, y'all. Like the blue, and I haven't tasted these personally. I've had the cookies and cream cookies, I believe. I'm pretty sure these have like an Oreo or Oreo type cookie baked into the middle of them. It's nuts. It's insanity. It's great. I promise. I'm not even a sweets person, but this is exciting for me. I have personally gotten, what is it? The strawberry crumble cupcakes. It's I just the love I have for them. Ugh. Their tres leche cupcakes are insane. I won't even tell you how many I've eaten in one sitting because it's disgusting how many. I think I ate like 6. I don't know, but they're delicious, and the coquito cupcakes are a must have around the holidays. If you are not familiar with what coquito is, it's essentially eggnog. Coquito eggnog, holiday time, Thanksgiving, Christmas, even New Year's, you have to have it. Delicious. The cupcakes come with these little like droppers inserted in them, and you can even order them with rum if you're interested. So those are a must-have holidays. All of the pastries are delicious. So I'm very excited about the giveaway. Details of the contest will be available on Facebook and Instagram, and the winner will be announced online as well. I'll also mention the winner in our next episode next week. So be on the lookout for information on that. If delivery is required, I will take care of the delivery. And, I'm just incredibly eager to start collaborating with other local establishments. I think it's a great way to show love and support to our communities. And even if I'm not able to do like a giveaway with something like this, I do want to start shouting out other local businesses as well. This is a Delaware based podcast. I'm very interested. I'm very focused on local here. Okay. I've talked enough. So sorry. If you're still with me here, we are now going to dive into the story of Adolf Czojor. Adolf Czojor, last name spelled Czojor, was born in Germany on July 24th, 1934. I'm not a history major, and I'm assuming that most of you are on the same boat with me. So, just so you're aware, Adolf was born just a few years before the beginning of World War II. World War II. I'm not even going to edit that out. You're welcome. The Czojor family endured a lot of tragedy in the early years. I saw on a Reddit post that I'll link in the show notes. I'm not for sure how definite this is, but I did see it somewhere at least that the family home was bombed at some point. Wartime Germany, it makes sense. It kind of adds up. So I don't know. It's possible. But for sure, when Adolf was about 6 or 7 years old, his father, Wilhelm, passed away in 1941. The cause, of the father's death was not revealed, but there was much speculation within the family that Wilhelm's death was the result of him refusing to join the Nazi party. Yikes, right? Not long after Wilhelm's death, Adolf's mother, Maria, was taken and sent to a concentration camp. She was charged by the Nazis with consorting with the enemy after speaking to a British soldier about her older son, Helmuth. Helmuth, also known as Henry, was a naval officer and was being held as a prisoner of war at the time. Thankfully, Maria did survive living in the concentration camp and she was released 4 years later. But with, Adolf's father being dead, his mother being away, both parents are gone. Adolf and his youngest sibling, Klaus, were sent to separate orphanages in Poland. So your father has passed away, your mother has been taken away, and you and the youngest child are sent to separate orphanages in a different country. Talk about trauma, right? So at one point, Klaus's name was even changed while he was at the orphanage to Mikolaj, and he would not be reunited with any of his family members until 25 years later, sorry. And as a matter of fact, Adolf had a total of 4 siblings. None of them would be reunited until after 18 years. So, this poor family definitely had a rough start. After leaving the orphanage as a teenager, Adolf did move back to Germany and was reunited with his mom. And this is when he began training for what would become his lifelong career as a butcher. In 1952, Henry, who again, Helmuth, Henry moved to Delaware from Germany and settled in Ardencroft. After remarrying Adolf's mother Maria, her new husband, her daughter Ingeborg, Adolf, and Adolf's wife Elsa also migrated to the U.S. in 1957. The family originally moved to Milwaukee, but 1 year later, the entire family, including another sister Christina and Adolf's baby girl Jeanette, all settled in Delaware with Henry. Christina and Elsa would become the best of friends, and remain close all the way until Elsa later passed in 2015. Adolf and Elsa would purchase a home in the Minquidale area of Newcastle and lived there during their 24-year marriage. Around this time is when Adolf began working in southern New Jersey at a company called Springer and Thomas, and he worked there as a butcher and sausage maker. So that's where the training in Germany comes into place. Germany is known for their sausages, and Adolf definitely brought all that skill and knowledge with him, and that helped his career, blossom. Adolf would travel across the Delaware Memorial Bridge 5 days a week for the next 40 years of his life. Delaware Online did a great 4-part series on Adolf, and that is where a majority of the information I used for these episodes came from. Part 1 is titled, Who Would Want to Kill the Happy Sausage Maker from Bear? Spoiler, Mr. Adolf does die, and it's a little crazy. But, the title stood out to me because a lot of people knew Adolf as a sausage maker. The oldest Czojor child, Jeanette, was quoted as saying that the sausage plant where her father worked did close not long after he passed. No one else could produce the same results as Adolf, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Adolf never followed an actual recipe. He went off of sight, touch, and smell. If you ask me, though, like, that's how most of the best meals are made. I think there's a saying on TikTok or something like that, season until your ancestors tell you to stop. After nearly a quarter of a century and 3 beautiful children, Adolf and Elsa amicably split up and ultimately divorced. One thing to note about this is that every article or report that I came across had the timeline set up that Adolf and Elsa divorced prior to him meeting his next wife, Joan. The only article that stated otherwise is the part 1 of that Delaware Online 4-part series. I'm not sure if this is entirely a significant detail or not, but it did stand out to me, so I did want to mention that. The article published in January of 2022 states that Joan was not the cause of the split between Adolf and Elsa. Adolf and Elsa had been sleeping in separate beds for quite some time prior to their split, and they had just simply fallen out of love. It's always sad when that happens, but again, the separation was amicable. They ended things on good terms. So, nothing Nothing going on there, nothing to dig into there, as far as I know. One day, while hanging out at the American Legion Post 30 in Newcastle, Adolf met Madeline Joan Thomas Reese, who went by her middle name Joan. Joan ran a hair salon that was located inside the Ingleside Retirement Home in Wilmington, and she also worked at McCreary Memorial Funeral Home. I think she did hair there at the funeral home. Adolf and the newly divorced Joan hit it off, and not long after they met, the two were living together in Joan's apartment. The couple did eventually wed in 1982, and they held their reception at the bar where they originally met. Life was good in Delaware for Adolf. After marrying, the new Mr. and Mrs. Czojor purchased a mobile home in the quiet area of Bear near Lum's Pond. Adolf officially became a U.S. citizen in 1983, which is a big deal, very exciting, but he never forgot his roots. It was said that the German immigrant had trouble pronouncing words with TH in them, and he enjoyed gossiping in his native tongue around others who couldn't speak the language. So let's say, well, what's the words? Like thick, I don't know. He couldn't say the th or, that sound. And, no shade to Adolf, but if I knew a language and no one else around me could speak it, I would totally do the same thing. Adolf loved cooking, bowling, golfing, and attending the occasional UAD football games. It seems as though Adolf was living the American dream. A once poor German orphan was now a happy, quote, roly poly guy enjoying his life. Adolf also enjoyed playing the ponies. He could often be seen at Delaware Park watching the simulcast horse races for hours. If you're not familiar with gambling or casinos, there is a section at Delaware Park where you can go, and it's almost quite literally a wall of televisions, and each TV has a different horse race going on. They also do live horse races now. I kind of prefer those. I don't gamble, but it's kind of fun to watch. But either way, Adolf could be seen at Delaware Park in front of the simulcast screens for hours at a time. It doesn't seem like he won very often, though. One of his friends was quoted as saying that Czojor lost 99% of the time. Adolf's sister attributes his laissez faire views of money with his rough childhood. In the orphanage, he often went without food, heat, and clothing. So now that he was living a stable and comfortable life, anytime he had some extra money available, he would go gamble. On the rare occasion that he did win, he spent the prize money on gifts for Joan's granddaughter who had moved in with them for a period of time. So, even when he did win, he was, very happy to share that with others. Work was also good for Adolf, but after nearly 4 decades of what is now a 100-mile round trip to work 5 days a week, retirement was on the horizon for Adolf. He had also begun to complain about shoulder pain, and I believe what was his left shoulder, and that was thought to be caused by a lot of the heavy lifting that took place on the job. Despite being a heavy smoker and losing his teeth to diabetes, the 61-year-old was relatively healthy and was certainly happy at this stage in his life. He had overcome so much adversity, worked hard, and was looking forward to slowing down by the time that 1996 had rolled around. That 100-mile round trip is a lot, and you get older, it gets harder to lift things. So Adolf was excited to take it easy for a while. Friday, April 26, 1996, was Adolf and Joan's 13-year wedding anniversary. Adolf began his day just like any other weekday by arriving at work around sunrise and then finishing his shift by mid-afternoon. He then drove 50 miles back home and decided to cross the street and have some coffee and cookies with his neighbor. Fred Marini and Adolf chatted for a while and enjoyed each other's company before Czojor left to spend the evening with his wife, because, it was their anniversary after all. Fred recalled that Adolf seemed fine at the time, just his normal happy-go-lucky self. This detail is important because Adolf will be pronounced dead just a few hours later, so keep that in mind. Adolf had plans to go to Delaware Park that night and invited Joan to go with him since it was their anniversary. Slot machines had recently become legal in Delaware, and he thought it would be nice for Joan to go play the slots while he watched the horses. Joan declined and was not interested at all, so Adolf went off on his own to enjoy a night full of horse racing. After arriving, Adolf found his usual seat and removed his jacket to settle in and get comfortable. The seats on either side of him remained empty the entire night. Again, the seat to the left and the seat to the right of Adolf remained empty the entire time. This is also an important detail that will come up again later, so add that to the list. In those days, the casinos closed at 2 a.m., so close to midnight, a waitress had noticed that Adolf appeared to have fallen asleep at his station, but she decided to leave him alone because he was going to have to wake up in about 2 hours anyway. Roughly 15 minutes later, another gambler accidentally bumped into Adolf's chair and Adolf slumped to the floor. Paramedics arrived and rushed Adolf to Christiana Hospital, which is just 2 miles from the casino. At 2:30 a.m., Joan received a call from Christiana letting her know that her husband had been admitted and that she needed to rush over right away. When Joan arrived, hospital staff informed her that Adolf had passed away. And that is where we will leave off for this episode. I did find Adolf's daughters on Facebook, and I'm hoping that at least one of them will respond to me in time for part 2, or maybe even part 3. Depends on how far we get. I don't know, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Neither of their pages looked very active, and it's Facebook, so I really wish I could find a better way of contacting family members and victims, but that's all I have for now. Adolf's son declined to participate in the 4-part series with Delaware Online, so I didn't even try to look him up. He obviously doesn't want to be bothered, so I left him alone. This case is really a rare instance where I was able to use news articles and info online to piece together a quality episode. I mentioned in the beginning, I was just taken aback, like, wow, there's a lot on this. And I'm pretty sure that, we're all going to find out here that the scandalous nature of Adolf's death and what happened after is what created such a buzz at one point or another. So that's that. That's episode 1, or part 1, I should say, for Adolf Czojor. Be on the lookout for details on the giveaway. You guys do not want to miss out on those cookies. And I will have part 2 up next week. All right, guys, thank you again for listening. I appreciate you all so very much. And if you thought nothing ever happened here, you guys know you thought wrong. Thanks.